Hi there, my name's Ilyana Raymond, and this is my BFA talk. Over the course of this talk, I'll talk about my work and how I have progressed throughout the course of the BFA, where I started and where I'm at now. So to start, I entered the BFA doing this series of portraiture of my female family. On screen here is two portraits of my mother, the left being her younger and the right older. Um, in this series, I was thinking about my own identity, ideas of lineage and womanhood, and how those can be inherited or changed. And this series was not just limited to my mother, but my grandmother and my great grandmother as well. So through this series, I realized as I was doing this series and investigating ideas of identity, my own identity in relation to others, I realized that I wanted to continue that exploration into thinking about my own identity and how I find my place in the world, especially with themes of womanhood. So next in this work, Je ne manque de rien, this was the start of not a series, but a group of works I created, which were text-based, in which I had different phrases and words that I paired with different patterns and colors to just evoke a feeling of those words almost. And while this work didn't quite hit the mark of thinking about identity, my own particularly, it was a reaction that I was having due to COVID. And I was kind of pushing back against it by saying, I don't want anything, I'm not missing anything, even when perhaps I knew that I was. And so that work, while it didn't quite hit the identity mark, it was what led me into these text pieces. So this piece, Continue, which I explored in several different mediums, but ended up liking this marker and paper piece the best. Was me thinking about my identity in relation to like nationality and language. And what I mean when I say nationality language is that so much of our identity is based purely on where we're from, where we're raised. And so I wanted to think about that, especially as in this time in my life and going forward as well. I was and have been studying various different languages, experiencing different cultures. And so thinking about how those things change a person was something that interested me. And so coming to that understanding about how I could use text and language as a way to inspect how we're affected, I chose to take text and limit myself a bit. And by that, I mean use found text instead of my own text. So in this work, Exhilarating, it was text from an 80s magazine, which often treated the women depicted as objects. And this really brought me to something which I also ended up being really interested in was objectification, especially in its relation to womanhood, in relation to my own queer identity as well as a non-binary lesbian. Ideas of how women are treated or how people who aren't women are treated was something that interested me. And so that was where I started moving in my work. And from there, I really decided that, hey, I'm going into all these themes of identity. Like, I should focus directly onto myself. And so I made this piece called The Self. And it's a self portrait of me. My hair's not actually purple. um, yeah, I wanted to do something that inspected my own womanhood, which is what I did in this piece. And not even just my womanhood, but my identity as a whole, especially as a queer person. So I used elements of like the female form and the insect, the angels to create different themes that I thought related to my own identity as a woman and as someone like interested in women. Yeah. So in these two works, I brought back that illustrative element, which I had briefly lost in doing my text-based pieces, which I'm happy about because I think it looks nicer that way. And I also created this parallel between myself and the wolf in these two works. As a lesbian, I wanted to create this parallel in that a lot of lesbians feel a fear of being predatory towards women. And so I wanted to feel out, inspect that duality, that feeling. So this brings us to the work which I am ending my BFA with. This is a piece titled Self-Restraint. And in this work, I was looking to take those themes of identity, objectification, queerness, womanhood, bring them all together, bring together the illustration with the text, as well as the collage, and make one large piece which incorporated all those elements. So the torsos in this work, life-size torsos, have no humanoid skin tone. They have blue skin rather than brown or white or whatever. They have no head, meaning they have no face, further removing their identity, and they have no head to think thoughts with. On top of all this, they're restrained in bondage, further taking away their capability to act on their own or to exert a will. And my thought process behind the symbolism of this piece was certainly in line with my themes I'm interested in: womanhood, queer identity, objectification, in that most anyone, to a certain degree, is objectified and restrained in what they do. And to a degree, it is self-restraint. Self-restraint from what society places in expectations. And these expectations are just the same as what I was exploring in my text work, in that the place where you're from predetermines a lot of what your life will be like, and what the expectations are, and how you'll restrain yourself in different ways. And so beyond the torsos, the other various imagery in this work also goes in line with the theme. So the text being reminiscent of advertisements as it presents or advertises the figures. And then the animals presenting different reactions to what's appearing before them. So this work can certainly be read as an exploration of restraint. It's in the title. Yep. Can also be read as an exploration into gender identity, queer identity, sexuality, those type things. And so in that way, the animals become an audience to the presentation that these torsos are giving, much in the same way that society acts as an audience for our own presentation of the self. So in this final work, I really brought together all of those things that I had been thinking about throughout my BFA and went into a bigger exploration of them in this piece. And with that said, that was the end of my BFA. So to wrap it up, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for supporting me through the BFA, to Dave for being a great teacher, and to Wendy and Jeff for being on my committee, as well as encouraging me to apply and working with me even before this program. I've grown a lot, and I'm really thankful to everybody.